Bare Knuckle Boxing is continuing to get some popularity and rising in people's estimation. We saw a fight over the weekend with Paulie Malignaggi coming out and winning. Got cut badly in it, didn't he? What are you making of it, Paul?
I was there. I was commentating on the fight, on the Malignaggi fight, with Mike Goldie and Tom Ross, and some setup. It's brutal. Don't get me wrong, and we're seeing so many boxers, or ex-boxers more importantly, head over to the Trigon, which they call it. It's a triangle-shaped ring. It was absolutely nuts. It's tiny, it's small. And it's boxing, old school boxing, fighting at its purest form. Now, I always had the wrong idea of it before I went to a few of the shows, and I was expecting the odd elbow here and there, like the unlicensed stuff what you hear about with Lenny McLean or something in the 70s and 80s. And it was totally different. It's well organised, it's well run, the rules are stuck to, there's no rabbit punches, there's nothing really bad for it, but it's brutal. And it is brutal, and I can see a lot of the pros watching it. They see Paulie Malignaggi there on right now, pulling away with, he got a finger in the eye, and there's a lot of that happening because obviously there's no gloves, and a lot of us boxers, you box with your hands relaxed, don't you? But then the slap in the hands. I watched Lucas Brown, big heavyweight, on the last show when I commentated in Bristol, and he, from someone who didn't do well in the last few fights of his boxing, he absolutely smashed it in that. He won in the first round in that as well. It's interesting, it's entertaining, it's brutal, and I think that's the best word I can put for it.
What do you think, Spencer? I mean, this increasing popularity, we're seeing obviously combat sports gaining and gaining and gaining and gaining, and currency be coming out of it left, right, and centre. Whether it's Jake Paul doing what he does in the YouTube space, or whether it's the UFC world getting bigger and bigger, whether it's Dana coming in with TKO, or whether it's this stuff. Now, what do you think about this increasing popularity around this particular discipline?
Listen, I don't mind it. I watched it on Saturday night. I thought, it was entertaining to watch. My concern is it's the ex-fighters that go in there, when the fighters that have been at that top level, like Paulie's a great example. So we saw him after the fight, he'd broken several ribs, possibly a detached retina. I mean, I don't know how many stitches he had in his face. Yeah, it looked like a road map, didn't it? He must have had 50 odd stitches. There you go. Look at that. Wow. I mean, it looks like something from Halloween.
Yeah,
it looks like a.
And you don't mind it, bloodthirsty Spencer Oliver.
No. I said I don't mind. No. Listen to me. I don't mind bare knuckle boxing in its own space. Yeah. I said, but I don't like ex-fighters going in when they've had that wear and tear anyway. So the tissue is all a little bit soft. I didn't enjoy Paulie Malignaggi going in to box Tyler Goodjohn, a guy who was at Southern Area level in our discipline, and Paulie Malignaggi, 2-weight world champion.
He did well in the bare knuckle Tyler Goodjohn.
Yeah, he did.
What I noticed when I was looking through my notes, I was looking through the stats, I was looking at every fight, and you see the tail of the tapes. There was only 2 fighters that were in the 20s, the rest were in the 30s or in the 40s. Right. So maybe the fact that they're all coming over from boxes, because they're all similar age anyway, there's not many young men in there that are competing. There's old, experienced fellas in there, and it's so. Listen, and the females, by the way, there's a couple of female fights that were tough as well.
I don't know the numbers in terms of injuries and safety and people getting hurt, but what would the upside be of chucking a pair of gloves on? How much safer would that make it?
They are saying that the statistical evidence or the empirical data says that the reasons why boxing gloves were worn in the first place was to protect the hands. Yeah. And what boxing gloves have done is created the repetitive injuries in the brain being moved around. And actually, by punching with bare knuckles, the fights are quicker. And they're less damaging, and medically the proof is clear.
He said that with MMA, didn't he? He said that with MMA. It's not a targeted area and a prolonged punishment in the one area, because then it's all over.
It might look more challenging because there's more clarets, but actually the real damage to you guys as fighters is the repetitive constant
But what we're seeing,
acceleration of the brain.
But what we're seeing and what I saw on Saturday night was a couple of those fights, like Paulie's fight, where they go to 5 3-minute rounds. It goes the distance. 5 3-minute rounds with no gloves on, mate. It's just absolutely brutal.
Yeah, hands.
Well, the way both of them looked, hands as well.
I prefer the
twos. Absolutely. So I think that's maybe needs looking at something like that, because yes, there was the plus side is that someone gets knocked out and it's all over quite quickly, but when you get durable guys, these ex-fighters that have been around a long time, and they've got that, they've got that conditioning and that toughness, then you will get the distance fights. That's the concern.
A lot of the fights were over in the first round as well. Yeah. That's what you do find out. Very rarely they go the distance. A lot of the fights will be over quick.
Well, let's hear from Paulie Malignaggi himself, who was talking after the fight.
What's up, everybody? I just want to give everybody a big thanks for all your well wishes. I'm fine. I'm still in Leeds General Hospital. This is crazy, by the way. I don't know how it works in the UK. I still have not been stitched up. It's 4:30 in the morning. I got here 10 o'clock. Still have not been stitched up, guys. They x-rayed me, didn't give me the results of my hands. They gave me a CAT scan. I've got broken ribs in the back from all the rabbit punches, not the rabbit punches, the kidney punches. The kid broke my ribs. My eyes are too foggy still. When they put the light, the really bright light, it's too foggy for them to tell the extent of the damage. They're hoping that it's just, you know, poked and that's it. But it's too foggy, which means there's bleeding back there. So they have to check for a retina tear. And until that clears up, they can't really make a judgment on whether I have a torn retina or not. I pray to God that I don't have a torn retina. But my eyesight is getting better in this eye, at least. That's positive. It's not back 100%, but it's at least foggy. After the fight, I couldn't see anything. I actually finished the fight from round 2 on, not being able to see out of this eye. But I didn't realize I wasn't seeing out of this eye until the fight ended, and I went like this. And when I went like this, I could not see anything out of this eye. It was all white. So that means from about round 2, when I put that bad eye poke, I was fighting with one eye the whole fight, you know? It's kind of crazy.
That makes me a bit squeamish. It makes me a bit tight. You're fighters. I mean, when you hear that kind of, you're used to being in situations where you've been beaten or you've not been beaten, you've been in a tough fight and you've gotten hurt in it. When you listen to Paulie describe that litany of injuries and challenges, beyond the fact he's waiting at hospital till 4:30 in the morning, but all of that, how does it make you feel?
Yeah, that's what I said to you. I'm not a fan of the ex-fighters going in, like Paulie, going in there and doing that, because I think the body is weaker, you know, from the wear and tear over the years. And that concerned me. I didn't like it. You know, I've seen that interview already. And I wasn't comfortable with Paulie boxing in the first place. We know that he has a history of hand injuries anyway. He done a bare knuckle fight before. So I go, his hands were always, and he was like pitter-pat punching, and you see then...
It worked for him, that style, didn't it?
It worked for him, yeah, but you just look at the way his face was cutting up, the injuries he was picking up, and you go, look, you've had your career, it's done now, you know, like... Bare knuckle boxing's got its own space, right?
Go play
fair
golf.
enough, let's do that. But yeah, but for the ex-fighters coming back in,
go play golf.
Okay, let me ask you this question. You can answer this, Paul. So
Paddle,
the ex-fighters that are coming in, yeah, we've got Paulie Malignaggi there, great history.
Lucas
of boxing.
Brown.
What is the reason for him wanting to do that, going back into that? Is it only? It must only be because of money.
There's got to be a couple of reasons. One will be
I can only find one reason.
I understand from everyone. The other one's got to be a little bit of ego, and maybe that you still don't want to just drop it and let it go because it's not there.
To do that.
But I've spoke about that. I've looked at that and I've thought, I reckon I could have a go with that. And then you see the damage, you think, do I want to put myself through that?
Kids and that,
Do
mate.
that's what I mean. Like, do I want to come out the ring and have my little girl who's 10 looking at me like that? You know,
why would you do that?
But
would you? I mean,
money talks, and obviously this.
There you go. You said it.
How much are they getting paid? How much are they getting paid?
But that's the point. That's the point. You go, there can only be one reason only to go into bare knuckle boxing as an ex-fighter.
Put me in Tesco.
I told you he's got his own space.
Put me in Tesco. Put me in Tesco. We're looking stuck in shelves.
Okay, well, we've seen Lucas Brown do it. We've seen James DeGale do it.
Yes.
If the money was right, and I mean, obviously, Paul, I'd be fascinated to see what Paulie thinks about it now, having done it now. He's done it previously, but he's now been back in the mix. I think he signed a free fight deal. He's becoming ambassadorial for them. So I think they've got their hook in his mouth in terms of the obligation to do it. I wonder how he feels about it now after the fight. If the money was right for you two guys, would you do it? Would you take that challenge on?
Again, this is probably hypocritical. Money talks in every situation. Money does talk. I'm a man with a family, and if I wasn't in a position to provide for my family, and fighting is something that's second nature to me anyway, I'd definitely think about it. But unless it was considerable money, and if I could earn the same money doing something else...
£500,000 for 5 tours against the fella who was a journeyman in the boxing with gloves on.
But yeah, I'm doing it. Yeah, of course.
That's what I mean.
Of course I'm doing it.
And it's tough to say no to if it's that type of
money.
But it depends,
that's what I'm saying. I'd be interested to know the money.
But this is my argument. That's what I'm saying with the ex-fighters that are coming back. You go, there's only one motivation, and that is money. Obviously, money is a motivation for us all to do everything. But you go, when you're going into bare knuckle boxing, after having this career, you just look at that and I go, well, you know,
you've been injured, mate. You've been injured yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't spend it. That money's no good to you if you can't spend it.
I wouldn't look at that. That's my point. I think that when you've been into a certain discipline, going into something else it's the age that these fighters are going into. They're in their 40s, mate.
That's the fascination, no, because it's different to what we did. It's not boxing with gloves on. We're all brilliant at boxing with gloves on without sounding big-headed. We've all done it at a good level. We've all won things and done really well. That's different. That's something like, that's the old school way of fighting, and that's something that always
do you think it will
pique
go,
an
Paul?
interest
I mean,
in
when you see the guys come in, I've had them in the studio a couple of times. I mean, they're full of beans and they're full of the optimism, and they're talking about the scale of this situation. Of course, they would do because they're promoting themselves, but they're talking about the reaction to it from the audience. They're talking about their expectations from broadcasters and commercial opportunities. I'm struggling to see how broadcasters will want to broadcast if it gets that sort of messy. But how big do you think it can go, Paul?
Do you remember the old school videos of the first ever UFC?
Yeah.
When it first come out? I remember watching them, and there was any rules, and there was no gloves, no mitts, no wraps, no tape. Some of them had shoes on and everything else. I'm not saying it's going to take off like UFC. You never know. But I think, as you say, whether broadcasters want to be fully behind that, whether they change a little bit, modify it, make it 2-minute rounds or something. Like what I was happy with when I saw it was it's not completely, it's bare knuckle, but it's not completely bare hands. You're allowed tape up towards a finger width down, which we do in professional boxing anyway. You can't go over the knuckle, obviously. That would support hands a lot more, which would cause less damage to hands, which would be more entertaining fights and less injuries for the fighters.
Well, the interesting thing will be, if the audiences are there, broadcasters will show it.
100%. Listen, we live in a numbers game.
Absolutely.
Listen, if the numbers are there for the broadcaster, listen, don't think that the man at the top isn't turning a blind eye to it, because it's pan nose. But what I'm telling you is this: when someone gets hurt bad, and they will, same as they do in boxing, this is going to get a lot more flack.
Yeah.
Just because of the nature of it.
Well, I want to ask that question, Spence, before I close off this section. You've been hurt in a ring. When you see Paulie sitting in A&E at 4:30 in the morning, not being attended to and not being looked out for, to some extent, and perhaps the way you'd like to think so, does it make you worried about the duty of care and the responsibility and the level of professionalism around BKB that isn't seemingly there by that video? I might be being harsh, but I'm asking the question.
100%. And we go back before that video, even when he was in the ring and doing the interview with Gareth A. Davis, and midway through the conversation, he says, "I can't see out my left eye. I've just realised I can't."
Which is a bonus if you've got
actually,
that
I
plan in
can't
front of you.
see. No, but what I'm saying is, at that point, you go, right, stop the interview. You go and see the doctor. You go and do what you've got to do. Don't have another 5-minute interview where the guy's telling you that he can't see out of his eye.
So you think they've got to up their game a little bit?
Well, there's tweaks that need to be made, but obviously you're going to get these bumps in the road when you're starting out, for sure. I think that they're definitely onto something. The numbers that are on talkSPORT Boxing YouTube channel from that show at the weekend were fantastic.
Right.
So they're definitely onto something, but we just need to tweak things here and there.
OK, well, we'll watch that space with some interest, I suspect.